All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm AK, the co-founder and CEO of Logical, and I have here with me the amazing Corey Bryan. I will have him introduce him to y'all in just a second, but I just wanted a goal set for the rest of the conversation. This is a very casual conversation. Corey and I had a great conversation a couple of weeks ago, and this is basically a continuation of some of our opinions that we shared, and we really vibed with each other. So we just want to put it out there with our opinions, thoughts about building in legal tech, about our experience and learnings of building for law firms, for lawyers, and just have like a good organic conversation about it. So if you have any questions throughout this conversation, feel free to drop it in the chat, and Corey and I will do our best to get to them. But that is literally what it is. You're just getting a sneak peek into Corey and a conversation from a couple weeks ago and more. Awesome. So I will pass it on to you, Corey. Would love to hear about your background and who you are, and also we have a few questions prepared for each other that we will be asking each other throughout the session. Yeah.
Thanks, AK. My name is Corey Bryan. I've been the Chief Product Officer at a company called Scribe.ai, and they do depositions in legal tech. So I've been working there and doing legal tech first foray for about 3 to 4 years now. I've been in a lot of different industry, finance, all kinds of other things. I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to know a lot about lawyers. I have learned a lot, and it's been both eye-opening, frightening, and educational. And it's been great. So I'm looking for the opportunities to kind of learn more about software. I'm a product guy and a process guy by nature. And so really interested in learning more about how legal uses this technology.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that, because I feel like legal tech has so many folks that come in from an outside-in perspective, like you and myself. There's a lot of advantages to that, but I also feel like a lot of law firms, a lot of legal professionals don't take us seriously because they think that we're probably not the right people to build software for this industry. But I actually think it gives us an edge, and we're able to understand things from a different lens. And it's really important to bring different personalities into a room to come up with cool ideas and make change in a space. So I'm really happy you said that. Yeah, awesome. I guess first question for you, when did you join Scribe? And like walk me through, I guess, your decision of like moving into legal tech.
It was around the late 2022, and really the decision was one of the things I look for is interesting problems to work on and interesting ways to solve those problems. And the way that Scribe was set up and the way that the pitch is they were reimagining how depositions take place. And knowing not anything other than what I saw on TV and movies about what a legal deposition is, I had a lot to learn, and I had a great opportunity to get involved and to learn more. And it's been a wild ride for the last 3 to 4 years.
Wow. Yeah, I'm guessing a lot has also changed in those 3 to 4 years. I'm very curious. Well, I guess, what did you learn about the legal industry when you joined Scribe? Like, I guess, were there things that were eye-opening or realizations that you had from a product perspective that you felt were very different from other industries that you worked in?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I've been to a couple conferences, we've gone to a couple shows, I've done a lot of research and a lot of digging in and understanding not only the product side of that, but also how lawyers actually work. And one of the things that was the most interesting is just how hard it is for some legal professionals to adopt technology. And how long that takes. We learned at one of the conferences that email was banned in a lot of jurisdictions until 2005. 2005, an email came out, so long ago now. But it's just the pace of change and the pace of technology change in legal is, I think, the slowest I've seen. And I haven't worked in every industry, but just knowing how medical works and how some of the other industries work, legal seems to be the one that drags their feet a lot on this stuff. for good and for bad reasons too. I mean, there are some legitimate reasons the courts can't keep up, and there are some privacy and some security concerns as well. Email was illegal, cloud was illegal, all these other things you couldn't do, and now you see it with AI, with things that say AI is illegal in some cases, and now people are being punished for it, and now people starting to adopt rules and adopt platforms that make it legal. So it's just a long process, and that's the most amazing thing that I've seen.
Yeah, I have to second that. I think adoption is one of the biggest problems in legal in general, no matter how advanced the technology is. And I think AI is it's really expedited adoption across the world, regardless of what industry you're in. But I think legal is still extremely scared of AI. They're extremely worried about data security, data retention, the ethical debate about it. And I think that's one of the biggest, well, actually, I don't know if you saw the Claude report from a few months ago. The legal has the highest amount of use cases in AI, but it has the lowest amount of adoption. Across compared to other industries, which I think is so surprising, because there's so much. It's basically saying there's so much you can do, but there's so little that people are using it for.
Yeah, and you're seeing it with different jurisdictions come in with different laws, different states come in with different laws. Every week there's a new story about how a judge misused it or a lawyer misused it, or a new rule that comes in. Florida a couple of weeks ago said that actually created a rule that said you, the lawyer, are responsible for everything you submit to the court. But why does that have to be a rule? Why does it have to state that? Aren't you to me as a layman, I'm like, why aren't you responsible for everything you submit? It's just fascinating to see all the different rules that come in.
Yeah. It's like it goes a little bit into a few things, like the psychology of how you think as a lawyer after being trained for years in this extremely rule-based environment.
Yeah.
And I don't blame lawyers. Like I hear a lot of legal tech companies and founders like talk about it as if it's a huge problem. Like, yeah, it is a problem, but also I wouldn't blame lawyers for the way that they are trained. And there's a reason why they're trained that way as well, right? The law is extremely strict, and you have to follow rules or work around the rules to just make results happen. Right. So they are trained to work that way. They're also extremely logical beings. So for me, it's like, I understand why they're hesitant. I understand why they're skeptical. And then to your point about the Florida bar, it's funny you said that, because just going back to the rules point that I just brought up, I think that lawyers, like, they're tied to this rule-based mindset because they're scared about their license. There's a huge risk on the line. So they're extremely worried. So I don't know if this is like something intentional that bar associations do, but I think it's just a way to keep people in check, right? Like you have to tell them like, hey, you have to follow these rules or your license is going to be at risk. So it's extremely scary for lawyers to invest so much time of their lives in being a lawyer, and now have to worry about the repercussions of using the technologies in their practice. It is scary. It's daunting. And if I don't know, were to just put myself in their shoes, I would also be worried,
And that's one of the most interesting things that I've had on this journey, is not only, building the products and understanding the profession and the workflows and everything else, but just understanding the behavior of lawyers and the personality of lawyers. There's been lots of research, and I love some of the research that I've been reading about how lawyers compare to other just general professions and everything else on different, types of traits. And a couple of the traits that lawyers far exceed the average professions are, they're very highly skeptical. By default, they are just skeptical. High abstract reasoning. They can think a lot of different ways. High urgency. I can't tell you the number of times that somebody says it has to be done today. It was planned 2 years ago, but it has to be done today. High autonomy. They want to make decisions. They want to be in charge. They want to do things. They have low sociability, which is odd if you see lawyers gather at a bar at 10 o'clock at night, but they have low sociability. Low resilience. Anything that kind of disrupts the apple cart, they don't react really well to. And low cognitive empathy. So it's one of those are traits that they far exceed, like 15 to 20% higher or lower than the average on those specific traits. And building product and trying to understand those specific traits or that mindset, that's a real challenge.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Firstly, you need to share all of those resources with me because we can geek out about this. Like this
Yeah.
is not, this conversation is going to go beyond like 40 minutes if we want to go really deep into that. But I agree. I think it's really fascinating. Every time I tell people I tell other founders or folks in the startup world that I work in legal tech, and they kind of just like, they take a step back and they're like, oh, wow, okay, like you have to deal with lawyers every day. Quite frankly, I really enjoy it. Like, I think it's really interesting. In another life, I think I would have also probably been a lawyer. I'm just too creative to to want to be a lawyer now. But yeah, I think if I didn't get into design or product, I would have probably been a lawyer. And I completely understand the struggles they go through. And also I really respect and admire that they're very logical beings. They're the most challenging audience to sell to, but there's also a lot of fascinating things you learn as a product when you sell to lawyers, right? You're building for the most logical beings on the planet. So every single product decision you're putting in there is very very intentional because of that.
Yeah, I one of the jokes I like to remind myself is lawyers are people too. I know there's lots of jokes and I know there's lots of sayings and everything else, but they are people and they do have jobs and they have to get those things done. And understanding that, I think, is very you have to understand that. You have to understand that their problems are their problems, and you have to understand that whatever problem they're facing is the most important thing to them. It may seem trivial to you, it's not to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess from all of these learnings about and your research going really deep into understanding lawyers as a buying persona, were there any distinct patterns that you had to adapt in your product or pivot or become just more mature about in your product decisions that started influencing the kind of features, the way you add features, the way you build for lawyers? I'm just more curious to understand, were there any realizations that you had that directly influenced your product?
I think the one that there's two that come to mind. The first one is just proof. It has to be real, and it has to be real very quickly to the lawyer. They have to get it, and they have to understand that it's true, right? One of the things that we had as kind of a question that we were going to set up is, what is the biggest stumbling block? And I think it's getting them to trust that the law that we're using, specifically at Scribe, is a real law. And it's been a law since 1993. So it's not a new law. It is not a law that nobody's heard of. Well, not really, but it's been a law that's been on the books for a very long time. I mean, DVDs came out after this law was enacted. And some people just, they hear that and they say, I don't believe it. And that's fine. They cannot believe it. When you show them the law and you show them the thing that it does exist, then they're looking for it. So that's one version of proof, is the law exists, you can use it. The other version of proof that exists is other people use it. So you've got this, and we have all heard of the herd mentality, is once you see enough people using this, or once you hear enough people using this thing, then they start to believe. Then they start to go, oh, well, I'll try it. So it's not enough proof that it works. And by the way, your product has to work. It can't be vaporware. It can't be something that will work one day. It has to work today to solve the problem that attorney has, or that law firm has. And then you have to get through all the other hurdles. So there's just the word proof, and how do you prove something works, is legal, other people use it, and will work for their problem in that moment, not a week from today, but today is one of those things where you have to prove that really, really quick.
Yeah. Word. I think, and also you touched upon reliability. Like, it has to be reliable, and they should be able to depend on it like they would depend on a human and expect results from a human. I guess Scribe did exist pre-AI as well, right? It wasn't designed as an AI-focused product when it started out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm very curious to hear, I guess, how you've all navigated going into the AI era as well.
It was, so Scribe was something that was set up as a different way to take depositions. It was a way to do, so non-stenographic is the rule that I've talked about. It's been around in federal court since 1993. It's been around in lots of different jurisdictions. Not every jurisdiction, not every state allows for it. But we have a place on the site where you can talk about every state rule that deals with non-stenographic jurisdictions. And this is just an attorney can sit down with a tape recorder or a video camera and take their own deposition. And that's been, capable and possible for decades now. It's using software to assist in that, to record it over Zoom, to get an ASR transcription, to be able to take that transcription of a 4-hour deposition and create a summary of it through AI, to be able to ask questions of the deposition and get an answer in a video clip. That's the types of things that we've done, which makes the things that the lawyers want to do just easier to do. One of my favorite stories that we've had at Scribe is an attorney scheduled 2 depositions, one in the morning, one in the afternoon. The first deposition they took in the morning, they took is about a 2-hour deposition, and over lunch, they sat down with the rough, the video and the transcript and everything else, created a 2-minute clip and showed that clip in the second deposition that afternoon. Depositions turnaround time from court reporters and court reporting agencies are just hard. I mean, there's, the cost is insane, and this is not a sales pitch, by the way. This is just the crap that lawyers have to deal with.
No, this is super useful.
Yeah, the cost is insane, and the delays. I mean, it may take 10 weeks to get a result sometimes. We give you results. Like I said, he took it in the morning. He made a clip of that video and showed it to the second witness in the afternoon. And the attorney was like, the other attorney was like, how did you do that? But that doesn't make sense. That's not possible. It is possible. And it enabled that attorney to win that case. And it enabled them to do something that they previously were not capable of doing before. Because how do you give a deposition testimony from one witness to another in the same day?
Yeah. Speed is so important, right? In litigation, especially, there's so many moving parts, and I don't know too much about litigation. We don't work much with litigation focus. There's criminal defense that we work with a little bit, and family law that fall into litigation sometimes. But that's really fascinating. I also want to, I hate to ping pong back and forth from topics, but I want to go back to what you said before this around how you need to build trust with lawyers by showing them that other people use it too. First, showing them it truly works. It needs to click immediately. And secondly, you need to show them how other people use it. I don't know how I guess early on you were in the Scribe journey, but I feel like this is always a chicken and egg situation for very, very early startup founders. I struggled with last year too, is how do you show another lawyer that another lawyer is using it when you don't have your first customer or your first user? So how do you sort of build trust when you're extremely early, when you know you have a problem that you're trying to solve for, you're trying to get a foot in the door? I'd be very curious to hear if you have any takes on that.
The easy take is it's the same model that other technology companies and product adopt, which is there's always an early adopter segment and there's always a laggard segment and a late majority and everything else. And crossing that chasm is where you get to the point where you can actually say, we've got enough people that use this, that there's a herd mentality or a critical mass that moves it on. In our case, in Scribe's case, we had a cheat code, which is our founder is a litigator. And so he was able to use it. It was a problem he specifically wanted to solve. He solved it and was able to use it. And that kind of got other people on board to say, no, it's actually being used here. And then, you got to get more people on board. You got to show it. You got to talk. I mean, one of the things that you're doing is you're talking about your product, and you're talking about your solution, and other people, because lawyers talk, right? They get to the point, hey, what did you use? The best marketing, the best way to grow your product is word of mouth. So when one lawyer hears about it and likes what they see, they're going to tell other lawyers, because somebody who might say, hey, I don't know what to do with my intake process. It's a mess. I got customers hanging up on me, and they go, well, what you should do, you should talk to AK. So those are the types of stories that you want to seed those things as far as you can. And if it means, like a lot of products do, is they give it away for free for the first couple users just to get those people on board. And more importantly, to get the very good user feedback for where is this working, where is it not working, what can we do differently.
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't agree more. Oh gosh, I feel like we should just have a whole other conversation just about product building, because I have so many questions about what you said, and also like some hot takes about what I've learned as I've built early on as well. But yeah, no, I also do want to also focus this conversation a little bit more around building for legal tech and selling to lawyers. I also want to pause and ask you, are there any questions that you want to ask me? Because I've been asking for a while and you've been talking for a while.
We've had lots of things on there. I think when you think about those personality traits, which one have you discovered, or which one have you heard most people have, like right off the get? Like what presents itself as number one for you?
With lawyers?
Yeah.
And when you say number one, just clarifying, are you talking about it from a perspective of closing a customer? Like, what is like the ideal sort of customer profile that I've seen?
What I'm thinking about is interest. What makes somebody interested, or to get past that interest stage? What do you have to address first before they'll even listen to you?
Gotcha. In the case of AI intake, it's almost always, do leads trust an AI when they get on a call with an AI? Okay. While we don't just focus on calls, but calls is a really important factor for most law firms, right? A lot of people prefer calling into a firm. So how can you trust an AI to keep your calls engaged enough that you can pass them on to a human once we realize that it's a high intent caller? Yeah. So there's still a lot of law firms that do not trust AI with their calls, and rightly so. I'm not here to tell people that you should absolutely trust AI with your calls. However, the kind of law firms that I see it immediately click with are the ones that one either cannot manage the high volume, right? It's not humanly possible for you to hire enough humans to manage the amount of volume that you get. And also it's the conversions, right? You can't just hire a bunch of humans and then realize that you're converting very few of those customers. It just doesn't make sense for you to have that like degree of resources at your disposal. And then the second buyer profile is around small to mid-sized firms who just can't afford to have more humans working with them. Yeah. Right? They absolutely cannot afford hiring a completely new like intake team or paralegal team of two that is constantly managing calls, maybe an offshore team for calls outside office hours. Little things like that, I think is a massive value add for them. And the easiest or the best way to do this, free advice, take it or leave it for any folks that are trying to tackle the intake space as well, because I've done this, I've tested it out a bunch of times. But the best way to mitigate this problem is to just reassure leads that they are going to connect with people. They're going to connect with humans. Tell them you're a virtual assistant, but I want to transfer. My goal is to transfer you. Like, I'm not here to keep you engaged and then not get you the legal help you need. Because legal buyers are like the buyers of law firms who are potential clients. They're anxious most of the time. When someone's looking for legal help, they're not calm. They're not just shopping around for another like luxury bag, or like, you know, the buying persona is so different. Like there is a lot of urgency, no matter what, even if it's even if I were to go really deep into, let's say, immigration, right? Immigration has some very urgent cases and it has some non-urgent cases. Like, hey, I'm just looking for a good lawyer because I'm filing for my marriage green card renewal in a year, right? I got time, but I just want to be ready for it. Like, there's people like that, but there's also people like, hey, I need help right now. My visa expires in a month and I don't know what to do. Right. So it's really important to understand urgency, and we almost always optimize for urgency. Like you need to win at speed with intake. You cannot discount urgency, because these are people's lives. They're looking for legal help, and you need to give it to them fast. And we're not trying to get AI to replace any human resource here, because humans, like you and I are talking today, like an AI could have been doing this podcast. But humans build the best degree of trust, of relationships.
Yeah.
Like you cannot replace that, right? The intuition, right? All of these things are extremely important in any touch point with a potential client or even a client. There's things you could get rid of in the mundaneness of that process, right? Like, let's say you're asking someone the same kind of questions, like every single caller, the same kind of questions. Sure. That's redundant. You can maybe have an AI do that. But after that, once you've determined it's a good client or good potential client, you really do want to pass it on to a human. So these are a lot of different points that I like to use to help people understand and ease the pain that they have. Just usually the question around is AI even worth the investment for this initial sort of phase of intaking leads, or should I just hire a human to do it for me? So those are two buying personas, and that's like usually the kind of question that I get first.
Do you find it more? Do you find you're talking to yourself more with the law firm owner or the lawyer themselves, or are you doing also conversations with the intake coordinators and those people that this information will eventually get to?
Yeah, it's usually top down with a lot of law firms. I wish we had bottom up adoption, unlike in tech. Like in the tech world, if you're building for engineers and designers and PMs, like you can just go directly talk to the actual user, and they're almost likely going to advocate for your product. It doesn't work that way in law firms as much as we'd like. It's usually very top down. So we talk to law firm owners first, or maybe there's an intake manager who's responsible for the budget if it's a mid to large firm. And we then get them to advocate for us, whether it's an intake manager or the law firm owner is the one that decides then and there. Like going back to what you said, right? They're very logical beings. You need to show them value immediately. Most of the time, we get one call closes if we're talking to a law firm owner, because they see the value immediately. They're like, yeah, this is totally going to save my intake team's time. And not to digress, but there's another really powerful value add for law firm owners to want to adopt this, even if their intake teams may or may not be hesitant, is a lot of the times in these high stakes situations when people are calling in, most people are anxious and frustrated and nervous. They need legal help for something really important and they're crucial in their lives. So a lot of the calls that intake teams have are very high stress calls. And you cannot possibly expect an emotional being to be attentive, to be empathetic from a call at 9 a.m. versus a call at 5 p.m. before they're about to end their day. Right? It's humanly impossible to stay that attentive and energetic and enthusiastic, or whatever you're trying to whatever emotion you're trying to emulate in those calls. Or I think that's a really big value add. And once we start helping the decision makers realize that, it's a very easy convert, because then they start to realize, oh yeah, like I remember listening to that call recording that my intaker did like last week, and I was like, why couldn't you close this customer? This was such a good lead for us. And they're like, I was just tired. Like I don't know, like maybe I just couldn't deliver my best because it was 4:30 and I was excited to just go back home and like just relax because I've been on calls all day. Like it's so labor intensive. So the flip side of this is they're always talking to people that convert, right? Almost always talking to people that are likely to convert. So they're having an even positive experience, even though their job is to be taking calls all day long. So it's the positiveness of only talking to the quality leads and not having to spend too much time on ones that don't convert.
Yeah, I had a personal experience where I had to find a lawyer for my daughter, and I called a bunch of law firms around the area looking for some, and the experience was not great with a lot of them. I did ultimately pick one, and I saw lots of different ways. I mean, some of them were just email forms, some of them were phone calls that they never got back to me, some of them were just standard forms, and the last thing I wanted to do at that moment, to your point, was fill out a form that answered the standard questions. But I understand that the law firm needed that. As the customer, I didn't want to do that at all. I just wanted somebody to talk to. And so I finally ended up with somebody that we did talk to and, got through the matter. But I saw some really interesting technologies. I mean, some of them were just like video chat. Some of them were AI chat. Some of them were all kinds of other things that just kind of helped funnel you to the right person. And some of them were really impressive. Ultimately, it was which human did I connect better with that made me choose one firm over another. And that's why I did that. So the technology, I think, can help in the moment. All somebody wants to do is to get help, and whether the help, but it has to feel like you're being helped. It can't just feel like you're one of 1,000 people in a line, or hey, fill this form out. Like you go to the doctor's office and it's hey, fill this form out that you filled out 5 times before. That doesn't feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very curious. I guess what were the combination of factors that made you go with the firm that you went with? Was it the intake onboarding experience? Was it the personality of the intaker? Was it a combination of all? And am I missing something?
I think it was very little of it was the actual intake process itself. I think what sold me on the firm that I actually went with was when I actually got to talk to the intake coordinator and then got to the lawyer that I was talking to. That's what sold it for me, is they felt like they understood the situation. It felt like they had handled that type of thing before. And it felt like they had a really good grasp on what the boundaries were for that type of a case, because there's limits in some of these things. And just working with lawyers, I know some of these terms that have come up now. So I had a little bit of inside baseball, especially with PI attorneys. But just the comfort level that I felt they understood what I was talking about is what ultimately made them decide to go with lawyer A versus lawyer B.
Wow. No, thank you for sharing that insight. Yeah, it is brutal, unfortunately, like getting on a call with a lawyer as fast as, let's say, an hour from the time of first point of contact.
Yeah.
The time that you talk to a lawyer, like ideally you want them to be available to take your call like within the few minutes that you've spoken to an intaker. And unfortunately, that's just not possible. There's not enough lawyers to afford that as a society. But yeah, no, appreciate that. I guess how has, just sort of going back to Scribe, how have y'all treated AI adoption within the product now that, your product would sustain with or without AI? But sure, it could potentially be better with AI, and maybe it has already become better with AI. One question is more around, how did you decide that, okay, AI is what we need to adopt into our product when it started becoming trendy, I guess? And the second piece is, did you have any pushbacks when you were trying to maybe sell the AI piece of your product, or in terms of adoption? Maybe you weren't trying to sell it as a separate plan, but I'm very curious to hear, how would you package something with or without AI as well? I'd love to hear your thoughts around that.
Yeah, the first couple of iterations of the product, the first couple of years, it didn't have a generative AI component to it. It was just video and non-stereographic depositions. It used ASR, which is not AI. A lot of the things that we hear from people that are afraid, either from court reporters or from lawyers, is I don't want an AI transcript, which is fine. You're not getting that. So what you're getting is an automatic speech recognition, which is a machine learning process, not AI, that gives you roughly, it struggles on some nouns, but I do too. My spelling is atrocious, but most medical terms, if it's listening to it, it will get it wrong from spelling. And then you have a human in the loop that can go back and review it afterwards. And so all the transcripts that Scribe produce, if it's a final transcript, it is done by a human. It is done through ASR with the rough. That's why you get it so quick. And it's good enough to get you to the next point. So there's some people that want it perfect every time. And those people, you can want what you want, right? But we do offer that final transcript as a human proofread. So the AI component comes into this very naturally, because nobody wants to sit there and look at a 7-hour deposition transcript and go, what did the attorney say? Or what did the witness say about the red car that hit them? What page was that on? And it's a 300-page deposition. If you could just ask the question, what did the witness say about the car that hit them? And it gives you the answer, And not only that, it tells you where that answer is. So one of the most critical things we've done with this is give you that referenceability. I know it's big in the legal space. It's one of the things I had to learn and write down as to why these page line designations are so important. It's so that everybody references the same thing. So that when you say it's on page 126, line 17, everybody looks at the same thing the same way. So if I can prove, there's that word proof again, that this existed and this was real, and everybody looks at it and everybody agrees it happens, that it happened. So when we tell you that the witness said this about the car, and we show you that and let you play that, then you can get through that 7-hour deposition in about 15 minutes. So that's a natural thing. It's not AI for the sake of AI. It's AI helps you do this, or you can be better. You can solve these types of problems with this wonderful tool that does these amazing things that helps you get to the next thing faster. And that's really the selling point, and really the benefit of this is you can summarize this deposition with AI. You can answer a question. You can say, hey, I want to make sure that I've got these 10 things that I want to ask. Did I ask these 10 things in this deposition, or did I not? Be able to do that in real time, pretty amazing. Be able to do that for the next deposition, be able to take 2 depositions and say, where do these people contradict each other? You can use data, and that's all a deposition is at that point, is data, to say, what else can I do with this?
Mm. Yeah, that's really awesome. And also, I'd imagine, given that you've also built out that human dependency layer where your team, you have like humans actually reviewing the transcripts and I guess correcting the transcripts wherever necessary. It's probably also made it a lot easier for them to use AI internally to get to screening the transcripts even faster, yeah, I guess there's also potential of doing no humans in the loop as an option if you want to tier your subscription. I think it's also empowered you as a team to provide faster results as well.
Well, it's one of the things too that when you understand the law and you understand how that process works, you understand that you don't really need that final transcript until you're ready to go to court. If you just want to take the deposition, and in most jurisdictions, if you just want to take the deposition and get the information, you don't have to have a final transcript. Mm-hmm. You can just take the deposition. And then if you decide that there's enough, I mean, one of the great things, it's bad for us, it's bad for Scribe, but it's good for the client, and it's good for the case, and it's good for the lawyer, is if the lawyer needs to take 10 depositions for a matter or whatever, and they take 5 and get all the information they need, and the case settles, they can cancel the other 5. So you don't need to take all the depositions you schedule, which sucks for us because we want to be able to host your depositions and be able to help you with that. But if you don't need them, then you shouldn't have to take them. And that saves everybody except for us.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Wow, that was super insightful. We're like almost coming up to time, but I want to ask you your top takeaway for one, if it's a legal tech founder listening in, and 2, if it's a lawyer, law firm owner, someone in the legal industry who's trying to get into AI or trying to adopt AI, would love to get one piece of advice for each of these folks.
So the first person I will say, if you're a legal tech founder and you want to understand, please read and learn how to apply the MOM test. Mm. Most critical, most fundamental thing. People don't care about your technology. They do not care about your solution. They do not care about your product. What they care is what they can do with your product and what your product enables them to do. So the second part of that overlaps with that, which is there's a job to be done in every situation. There's a thing that attorney or that firm or that intake coordinator is trying to get done. Understanding what that job is and helping them do that with the technology and the tools that you are giving them and building for them is the most important thing. Building an AI just for an AI, nobody's going to care. I laugh every time I go on LinkedIn and there's a new map of all the AIs, and there's 800 or there's 4,000 on Hugging Face or whatever it is. It's like every day there's a new AI that you have to learn. And it's not true. There are things that help you in your job, and there's things that you can build that will help an attorney do their job better. That's where the focus should be, not on just because you can build an AI, I'm going to sell my AI to you.
Yeah, I love that. It's like ask law firms should also build their jobs to be done. Like ask every employee to build out a list of what jobs you need to be done, need to get done, and reverse engineer what kind of AI softwares you think could potentially help you solve those problems faster.
Yes. There's no doubt that the technology that we're building and the tools that we make available can help them with their job and make their job, their actual job, which is helping clients, easier. No lawyer wants to sit there and organize SharePoint. No lawyer wants to sit there and go through thousands of emails every day. They want to do their job. And the fact that they have to do those things are where opportunities exist for, we can build products that help them get rid of all that crap that they have to deal with to get to the things that they should be dealing with, and frankly, that they want to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. And also our complete time suck, right? You don't want to take away jobs that take like a minute to do. You want to take away the ones that take hours, but yeah. Yeah, awesome. Well, no, appreciate the conversation very much, Corey. I feel like we could have gone deeper and deeper into the psychological aspects of building in legal tech for sure. But please do send over those resources. I'll maybe add it to the description of this conversation in case people want to dig deeper into it. I personally do want to, but appreciate your insights and thoughts, and I hope we get to do another one of these again.
That's great. Thank you, AK.
Yeah. All right.